Good morning, my little bookworms. I am just out of bed on this rainy, rainy morning, and I am ready to talk to you about some books. So, this past month, I have knocked 4 books off my TBR, and we are going to dive into what I thought about them, the things that I loved, and the things that I wish would have gone a little bit better. So, buckle up. Let's go. The first book that I'm going to start with is Wild and Wrangled by Lyla Sage. And this is the 4th book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. It's the final book in the series. I have talked about it in a previous episode because I had pre-ordered this book because I was very excited. I have thoroughly enjoyed this series, but let's dive into Wild and Wrangled. Overall, I'm just going to start out from the beginning. Overall, this book was probably only a 3-star for me, but I gave it a 4-star simply for the bonus chapter at the end of the book that had nothing to do with these characters, but I felt wrapped up the series so beautifully. It nearly made me cry. It was so beautifully written and so well done. So that bonus chapter bumped up this book an entire star for me. That being said, Cam and Dusty are the main characters in this book, and we've met them previously in the other books. But their story is a second chance romance. It's single parent, forced proximity, and like the rest of the books in the series, is a small town Western standalone, but it is better when it is read in a series. And like I said, if you've listened to my previous episodes, you know that I have enjoyed this series because it's very easy to read. It's very nostalgic and sweet. The banter and the storylines in book 2 and 3 were my absolute favorite. So I was like really hyped and looking forward to this book. Again, like I said, I ended up probably was only a 3-star for me. So I didn't love it as much as I loved book 2 and 3, but I digress. Again, it's morning, so I think I'm going to ramble a little bit. But to give you some backstory, these two were high school sweethearts who broke up like pretty close to right after graduation. Dusty proceeded to travel the world and do his own thing. Cam went to college, became a lawyer, and ended up pregnant from a one-night stand with Gus, one of the brothers at Rebel Blue, which brings her and ties her into their family dynamic. And they share a daughter, Riley. Now, this story finds Dusty and Cam years later back in each other's orbit, because Cam has just gotten out of an engagement where, spoiler alert, she was left at the altar. And I'll share my opinions on that later. But Dusty kind of swoops in as her friend and helps her pick up the pieces. I know. So sweet. But as time passes, as it does, they realize those feelings that they had for each other are still there. One thing leads to another, and happy endings for all, if you know what I mean. I'm going to start by saying Dusty Tucker did not disappoint. I loved this character. I enjoyed his free spirit, the way his character was written. I enjoyed who he was in high school, the flashbacks, and how just like charming and charismatic he was so interesting and enticing. Like it just like draws you in. You're like, okay, you're a golden ray of sunshine. That's fantastic. I love it. Love the feel of it. And the way he pursued Cam back then, as well as then as adults, was super fun. And I enjoyed the flashback scenes a lot. I almost wish that there would have been more of them. And it just was really cool how he saw her for who she was and pushed her out of her comfort zone, which she desperately needed. The way he showed up for her daughter as an adult was really well written. And, as those dynamics can be complicated, I think that the way that they have approached it and their blended family is really beautiful. And it's similar to how I approach my blended family in real life. So I just resonated with that wholesomeness and the lack of drama, even though I do feel like Gus's overprotectiveness of her, his overprotectiveness of everybody in the series is like, all right, bro, back up, chill. Okay. We're good. So I enjoyed how well Dusty knew Cam, not just on a surface level, but he knew her because he really, really saw her. And so that gave him the opportunity to just really show up for her in a genuine and authentic way. And he didn't force her, but he became this like sturdy presence in her life in the past and as adults. I also felt like he was just extremely emotionally mature and he embraced who he was entirely. And that was just really cool to see from a male's character's perspective. Oh, he also was like edgy, the tattoos, the nose ring, the crop tops. And so that was just like fun and different. He wasn't your standard cowboy. And so it added a unique style to his character. Now, I have to say, Cam was not my favorite FMC. I liked that she was introverted and smart and very driven, but I just felt like she could have used a little more depth that would have made their relationship more interesting and their dynamic probably would have like pulled me in a little bit more. I also wish like her arc of growth would have been a little bit more significant. And that's just merely my opinion. I typically am attracted to FMCs that are fiery and have good banter and are very just outgoing and spicy. And I don't know. I still love the fact that she wasn't those things. It wasn't necessarily that, but I just felt like she was very passive. And I wanted to see her grow into a little bit more of her strength. She did in some capacity, but I just felt like maybe it would have been cool to see her grow into that a little bit more. But like I said, I enjoyed the fact that she was very different than the other women of Rebel Blue. But then it also made the fact that she had a one night stand with Gus a little bit less believable because, I mean, she's way too responsible for that. And how did she accidentally get pregnant? I don't know. And maybe they explained that in the story and I just can't remember. But it just made it less believable because I feel like she, even a drunken one night stand would have been pretty on top of her game when it comes to those things, especially in the way that she was written and the way that she lived her life. One of the things that really frustrated me was her relationship with her parents. And that's probably the place where I wish I would have seen the most growth from her because I wanted her to start fighting for herself rather than needing Dusty there to do it for her or needing him by her side to feel like she could just be around them. Like that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see her grow into that version of herself to where she could stand her ground and have a backbone with her parents, for herself, for her daughter, for this new family that she's creating. And I just didn't feel like I got enough grit out of that storyline that I wanted to see from her, and a lot more drive, I guess. So I just wanted to see her fight for herself a little bit more. And I also wish that she would have been the one that left her fiance at the altar rather than her getting left, because it was kind of a whole marriage of convenience thing. But yeah, like she was the one who was left at the altar because he couldn't do it. And then she was just kind of left there upset, disappointed. And I wanted her to be the one again to like fight for her life and be like, no, I'm not doing this just because it makes you comfortable, you as in her parents. Anyways, I just wasn't a fan of the passiveness, and her reason for breaking up with Dusty in the first place, like when they were in high school, didn't really, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense. I feel like they were young, so I guess, yeah, there's that. There was just no communication about it, and he was like really trying to communicate with her, and she just kind of shut it down. So anyways, I don't want to give too much away. I did enjoy their dynamic. There were parts of the story that I absolutely love. I love what he brought out in her. um I just felt like there could have been a little bit more depth on her part of it, but like I said, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed most of the book, but the whole story itself just kind of left me wanting more. And all in all, it was fine. It was fine. But it definitely didn't leave me as invested in the couples as I had been in the past two books. And that's okay, because the entirety of the series I thoroughly enjoyed. Again, it left me with so much like wholesome nostalgia. They're quick reads. I enjoy Lyla Sage's writing. It's easy. Like it's an easy series to get through. And it takes a lot to write a book. So I'm genuinely easy to please. I don't necessarily look for plot holes or conspiracy theories or whatever. I try to thoroughly enjoy the story, and sometimes I just don't connect with characters as deeply as I do others. And again, that's okay. But I'm never going to be someone who's going to rip someone's work apart, because I know what it takes. I know what it takes to get that vulnerable to write a story. And just because I was left feeling a certain way doesn't mean that that's going to be the case for the next person. So, yes, I would recommend this series and this book if you're looking for something easy, cute, quick to get through. It's a good like summer series. You know, you just want something light and flirty to get through the summer seasons. This is one to add to your list. Okay. Next, I'm going to fangirl because I read the Haven River Ranch series, which consists of two books, Crossroads and Sunlight. This is a series by Devney Perry, and they were phenomenal. Like, I just get excited thinking about these books, and they absolutely cemented Devney Perry as my current favorite author. I mean, she skyrocketed to the top, no doubt. Like, there was a question mark there between her and Elsie Silver, but every single thing that I read that this woman has written, I devour, and I just love it. And I feel like I become so invested in their characters and their family dynamics. And there's no part of it that I look back and, I don't know, get the ick from. So, yeah, she is currently my fave. I just can't get enough of her. And I cannot wait. I just got Shield of Sparrows from my mom because she read it first, and she is like already just like dying for the second. So I'm so excited. I'm so excited to read it. Anyways, I finished both of these books in one weekend. They are beautifully written, of course, if I can talk, intricately unique, very dynamic characters, the perfect amount of spice. There were no like annoying third act breakups. And yeah, I was just like, please, please, please tell me there's going to be more in this series, which I feel like there could be, but I don't think it's happening from what I've seen on Devney Perry's Insta. But here's hoping. Let's go ahead and start with Crossroads because it is the first book in the series. And this book was a second chance romance, workplace, friends to lovers to enemies to lovers dynamic. And it did have some miscommunication in the flashback chapters. There are it's like a dual timeline in the flashback chapters, but in the flashback chapters, they're like teenagers. So what do you expect? I mean, come on. But what I loved was that as adults in the present day chapters, they really had the conversations to clear the air from the past. Now, not right away, not, first thing off the bat, but it led to those conversations. And I loved that. I loved that they communicated about the past and about what they were currently going through in the future or present day. The FMC India finds her way back to Heaven River Ranch as its new owner. And the son West, who she was involved with in the past when her family used to visit the ranch, his family has previously owned the ranch. And so he's not excited about this surprising news. Her being back in town, but also her owning his ranch. I mean, come on. And the fact that he had no idea that it was all going down. But immediately, right off the bat, when these two are in the same room together, their chemistry is on fire. And I love that as the story progresses, Wes doesn't pull that obnoxious macho bullshit about what she's doing as the business owner and really swallows his pride and appreciates what she's doing to make the ranch better. Even though at the beginning he felt super betrayed by it. So that was just really cool and nice to see and very well written. They both have unique storylines with their family dynamics that really added depth to who they were and the lives that they led and how they got to where they were, why they didn't end up together before, and what aspects pulled them apart, brought them back together, multiple times over and over again. And it just gave you something to untangle. And the flashbacks were super fun and very sweet because they were little when they met. And yeah, just as they got closer in the present and the spice starts to ramp up and they just sort through secrets and unresolved feelings and have plenty of hard conversations. So I just enjoyed that. I enjoyed seeing them really show up for each other, really having the hard conversations, really being honest, really getting vulnerable. Their tension was incredible, and the banter between them was extremely fun. I enjoy the way that they both honored their own individual experience, and life really took them to realistic places. It wasn't like they spent 10 years pining for each other, but they both had these different experiences that led to heartbreak and trust issues, whatever it may be, but life actually led them to these realistic places, but still brought them back together. If you couldn't tell, this was a 5-star read for me, and I finished it in less than 48 hours. Now, on to the second book, Sunlight. And in this book, we have an accidental pregnancy, which I know is not a lot of people's favorite trope. I don't mind it because, well, I've been there. So it's real life stuff that happens. But it's also a workplace romance. It's a found family situation, a slow burn, and it took place over a longer timeline. But because these characters just met, it's not like there were any flashback chapters. And again, they came in with their own interesting dynamics with each of the main characters from their past and their families. And so, again, personally, it gave them things to work through. And I love that in stories when the characters themselves have things that they need to work through, not just centered around their problems within their relationship. Like they're coming into this with baggage that they have to sort out. And so that they can, be in a healthy relationship. It's not just all about the drama of the relationship. And these two characters, Jax and Sasha, had insane banter and chemistry. Jax is literally so charming. I would like catch myself smiling so big whenever I would read their dialogue. And that to me is so fun. And the book itself made me feel giddy, just giddy. And I love when a book makes you feel giddy because that's what falling in love feels like. When you're first meeting someone, when you're first, you know, interested, that spark, those butterflies, that giddiness, like that is one of the most precious parts of falling in love. And so I love when that is depicted so well in a book that I feel it as I'm reading it. And I just get really excited. And so I got really excited about this book. And because again, it was very realistic. It wasn't just like this instant jump in. The instant thing can happen. I'm not gonna like say that that's not true, but it would just felt very different than a lot of the books that I've read lately. And so I don't know. I'll say it a million times, but the way that Devney Perry writes her spice is always top notch, but not crazy, over the top, and it just feels very intimate, but the sexual tension is still very much there. So, despite all of that, we still have our conflicts. And the FMC, Sasha, definitely has her guard up. She's kind of been a lone wolf for a while, taking care of herself, taking care of her baggage. I'm not going to give too much away, but Jax is just so patient. Like he is not deterred by her having her walls up as they navigate their situation, because obviously it's accidental pregnancy. So there is some there is some spicy scenes that happen pretty quickly, and then they are very surprised by the result. And yeah, her just being so used to taking care of herself, it was really nice to see her finally being able to open herself up to love and to just be able to receive, even when that is hard. And again, I find that relatable. I may cling to my hyper independence a tidbit. It's a work in progress. But I think that that's a thing that a lot of women can do. Like they can cling to their hyper independence, and it can be hard sometimes to receive. It can be hard sometimes to slide into that like soft feminine when you're so used to having to be like in your hyper masculine, like go, 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 do, work, 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 protect, survive, you know? So yeah, Jax also had his own interesting dynamics where he had to deal with the repercussions of his past. And he was a playboy living in a small town. And so, as that comes up in the story, it's dealt with realistically and in a funny way. So, I appreciate that. It's not like, oh, he's been some playboy all of a sudden. And then now, like, it's no big deal. And he doesn't have to ever deal with that part of his life again. Oh, no. Oh, no. It shows up. It shows up. But the two of them had really, really cute inside jokes and banter that added a layer of intimacy to their dynamic and to their friendship. So it just made it that much more satisfying when they finally really gave into each other and brought this baby into the world. I loved their friendship. It was so endearing and warm, and instantly had a connection when they first met, and to just see how it built throughout the book was really satisfying. That's like the best word that I can use to describe this book, even this series. It was just very satisfying. And the last line, look at my face if you can see it. For those of you just listening, I'm smiling really big and super cheesy. But the last line of this book, I squealed out loud and then instantly text my mom because she had already read the books. So, so good. So good. So good. Please write another book in this series. I will love you forever, Devney Perry. I'm going to love you forever anyways, but that'd really be the cherry on top. If you weren't sure, I rated this book a 5-star and highly, highly, highly recommend that you read it. Now, lastly, I'm going to chat about King of Envy, which is by Ana Huang. And this is the 5th book in the Kings of Sin series. My favorite so far has been King of Greed. But the thing about these books is that they are always extremely long. And that doesn't normally bother me a whole lot. But for whatever reason, this time around, it just really made me drag my feet to pick it up. And yeah, that was weird. I was just kind of like, I want to read this book, but like also, oof, this might be a lot. Anyways, I did pick it up and I did enjoy it. But one thing with her books is that sometimes I struggle keeping up with all of the Easter egg characters that are mentioned, because at this point there's like 10 books, including this one. And so bringing all of these characters in is nice sometimes, but I almost feel like it could be a little bit overdone. I don't know. Just my opinion. And, they're all released like 6 months apart. So trying to keep all the storylines together and like why they would be involved or how they would show up and what everybody's names are can sometimes just be like, make me have to think a little too hard. And that's a me problem. My mom has also read all of these books with me. Obviously, my mom and I, we share a library. But she really enjoys it because then it reminds her who everyone is. So that's a whole like to each his own kind of thing. But back to the book itself. It was a billionaire romance. And so if you've ever read any of her books, like most of them are, they're like unrealistically wealthy. But this one is a forbidden romance kind of vibe, but also like somewhat stalkerish in the beginning. Forced proximity, touch her and die, dual point of view. And again, this one ended up being a 3-star for me, I think, because probably again why I resisted picking it up because of its size. Like, I don't think it needed to be as long as it was for the story to be enjoyable. There was just a few parts of it that just like kind of fell flat for me, or that I was just unsure about. Again, it just didn't pull me in and get me as invested. I also had extremely high expectations for this book. So I may have set myself up a little bit for failure because I had such high expectations, and that's okay. That happens. It's a long series. You're not going to love every single book. And there was one part that was so ridiculously unrealistic that I had to like stop and look up other people's reviews. And without giving too much away, it's the part about the cat. Now, I'm not a cat person, but I thought that the cat storyline, how it came in to Vuk, the male main character's life, was very cute and sweet. But when the cat becomes a pivotal part of the rescue mission, I was like, we've gone too far. We've gone too far with the cat. I don't know. I don't know. If you've read it, I'd love to know what you think about the cat situation, because I'm very hyper fixated on it. So send me a message, please, if you've read this book and you know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the cat. Because what? Anyways, it's fine. It's fine. We're fine. So back to Vuk, and I don't even know how to pronounce her name. I pronounced it Anya in my head, but I don't think that's right. I think it's Ayana. But their relationship itself was very sweet as it grew. Their spice was good. But again, like I said, I just think I had too high of expectations and it just didn't quite meet that for me. I liked his backstory. There was different dynamics with his storyline and the mafia and his past and the way it tied into Ayana's life. I liked her family situation that they brought in and the diversity that Anna always brings to her stories, I think is always fantastic. But I don't know, just when it all came together, it didn't like light a fire in me like I expected it to with this like broody, quiet man. Um, and again, that's like a me thing, a me opinion, because the book was extremely well written. I loved his devotion to her. I loved her protectiveness over him. I loved the fact that, you know, she's this beautiful supermodel and he is a beautiful man, but has like these scars from this accident from the past. And she doesn't let that take away from their relationship. And she just like becomes extremely protective over him. I love the friendship that they built. The tension that grew between them was good. I don't know how I feel about the whole like stalkerish tendencies in the beginning. He was like so obsessed with her without really knowing her. Like before he had ever even spoke to her. That felt a little strange. That felt a little strange to me. And maybe that's some shit people are into. I don't know. I don't know. I think I would maybe have a little issue with that. But again, to each his own. We still love him. We still love him at the end of the day. He really he really redeemed himself, I guess, for that. But I'm going to continue reading the series. I would still recommend her books if you haven't checked them out. The Twisted series. In the Twisted series, my favorite ones were Twisted Games is the green one. Twisted Games. No, is that the yellow one? I'm literally going to look on my bookshelf. Oh, I can't see them. They're hidden. I don't remember. The yellow one and the green one. Twisted Games and Twisted Lies. That's what it was. The yellow one is Twisted Games and the green one was Twisted Lies. Those were my two favorite. And then, like I said, I enjoyed King of Greed out of the King of Sin series. So, all right. Well, thank you for hanging out with me. And I'd love to know what you're currently reading. So drop it in the comments or shoot me a DM because I'm always looking for books to add to my TBR. And if you have listened to any of these books, please let me know what you think. As always, follow, subscribe, come say hi on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok at Turn the Page Podcast because I would love to connect with you and chat about books. All right, party people, until next time.